Because I think it's related to the situation in Canada, and we're starting to see more of this happening in Canada, like the ice hockey thing and like this
Yep.
party with the cops coming in. There was another story that I did see, and this was the bill in New York. And the
That
reason I
bill.
bring it up is because this is here in the States, and I think if this bill passes in New York, we're going to see incidents like
I'm going to
this
pull that bill
happening
up as you're
here.
talking, Carrie, because
And yeah, now this when I first saw this described online, somebody was comparing this to concentration camps. They said this bill basically is allowing the government at the governor's discretion, they can set up COVID concentration camps in New York. And I was thinking that must be hyperbole. That's got to be an exaggeration. That can't be what's in this bill. And then I read the
yeah.
bill.
So you're right. It
And
is in the bill. Oh my God. Can you see this on your screen?
yeah,
Oh, you can't?
I can't, but with this new
Oh,
setup, as long as
yeah,
they
we
can
should
see
fix
it,
it so that
you
you
can
can see
read it.
that too. I got to figure out this, but okay, we're
That's
good.
okay.
All
Go
right.
ahead. I've got it on my
So I
phone.
have the bill pulled up. It's Assembly Bill 416. Okay. The public health law is amended by adding a new section to 2120A to read as follows. So I'm not going to read the whole bill, but removal and detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to public health. So this is authorizing the governor to remove or detain people who might be a danger to public health. Now, I just want to, due to any communicable disease, I just want to, I want to point something out.
Might be.
All of us are dangers to everyone else. That's the world is a dangerous place. Some large percent of the population has herpes. There are diseases out in public that people transmit and get. Going to a store and being near any human ever is a risk. It's a small risk normally, but it is a risk. This language is so wide open. It literally authorizes anyone to be detained. Anyone, because you can make this argument. And I know people are going to say, that's not how they intended it. Blah, 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 blah. They're just trying to stop COVID. It doesn't matter. Laws aren't used how they're intended. They're used by the worst possible person to justify their actions. That's how this will be used. And the worst possible person, the tyrant that wants to use this law, can detain anyone. Because, by the way, we'll get to it. Whose judgment? In the opinion of the governor, right? Upon determining by clear and convincing evidence, now that sounds good, but keep reading, that the health of others is or may be, so you could say, I'm convinced that others may be in danger in the opinion of the governor. Well, that undermines any kind of clear and convincing evidence. This is just flowery crap language. Here are convincing evidence, in my opinion. All the governor has to do is say, well, in my opinion, it's convincing. The end. Okay, done. May pose an imminent and significant threat to public health, resulting in severe morbidity. Now, this was a weird one. I saw high mortality, and I was like, severe morbidity? What the hell is the definition of that? Do you know what the definition of morbidity is, by the way? I had to look it up. I wanted to make sure. The quality or state of being morbid. Okay, fine. And so this is an attitude. This is the number one, doesn't matter. A disease, state, or symptom, ill health, the incidence of disease. This has nothing to do with like death. Morbidity sounds like this is some sort of severe thing. It's not. It's just you might have some sickness, and severe is obviously this is a word that is not specific. It's not exact. It's a matter of opinion, subjective. The governor or his delegates, not limited to, wouldn't want to limit it, not limited to all these other people, uh, may order the removal and or detention of whomever by a reasonably specific description of the individuals or group. Is reasonably specific. Close enough.
Close enough description of the people who may or may not
right.
be a danger.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Such persons shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premises designated by the governor. Oh, okay. So whatever the governor deems appropriate. Again, but this is like a recipe for Governor Hitler. But okay, here we go. I know I broke the law about mentioning Hitler. Okay. Notwithstanding any inconsistent provision. So this is going to talk about how long you can detain them. Now, there's something interesting here I noticed. They talk about like, oh, don't worry. They have to kind of they have to let you go after you're not contagious. But if you look at this language, they have to let you go if after the department determines that such a person is no longer contagious. Well, there's no rule about when the department has to make a determination. So just as an example, not that it's the same thing because YouTube, I'm sure, is way more efficient than the state of New York is, but YouTube has had 2 appeals for community guideline strikes sitting in purgatory for us for like 3 or 4 months. And they don't have any obligation to review them in any timely manner. There's nothing in here that says you have to make the determination within 24 hours or immediately or whatever. Nope. Just if you happen to determine it, then you got to let them go. And the same is true for, if they're not contagious, blah, blah, blah. It's all after the department determines. Then they have this, you can't be in for a period of more than 3 business days. By the way, 3 business days is a long time to have to produce any sort of justification for what you're doing. But okay, 3 business days. And if they ask to be heard, then you have to file some paperwork, and then there's an additional commissioner's order to check out the paperwork, and then maybe a judge will rule. If it exceeds three business days, you have to get another order. You can request release if you want to. You have to make an application for a court order. Okay. Detention shall not continue for more than 5 days in the absence of a court order. Okay, but a court can just give blanket orders to the governor, I guess. But even 5 days, so the governor can throw you in jail for 5 days without a court. Notwithstanding the foregoing, in no event shall any person be detained for more than 60 days without a court order. Oh, that's scary, because you just over here said it can't happen for 5 days, but it seems like there may be some loopholes. So you're wanting to make sure, don't worry, it's not more than 60 days. But the governor's got 90 days to following the initial court order to seek further review. Okay, this is, and we're not going to read the whole thing. I just highlighted some sections here. You have to be, you have to behave well. A person who's detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility shall not conduct him or herself in a disorderly manner. Okay.
You better conduct yourself in a grateful manner.
Yeah, don't be disorderly.
This gulag, this COVID gulag. This is not a super chat, and I've lost it, so I can't read it word for word. But I saw just there's a lot of people in chat today. Hi, Lisa, I think it was saying she could envision this being used in such a way where they're saying, if you have the wrong kind of opinions, your mental health. We think your mental health may be something that could put the public health at risk, and therefore we need to lock you up. Azor, who is in New York and said he's afraid of this, of course, of this passing, said, they could, if this passes, they could use it for anything. They could say, guess what? We're locking up people with AIDS.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to. They're simultaneously, weirdly enough, saying we're going to lock you up if we even think you might have COVID. But they just passed a bill in California where you don't have to disclose to people anymore if your sexual partners, if you have HIV. But they could.
Yeah. But look, the mental health thing is not, I know that sounds far-fetched, but that's not far-fetched at all. They already, look at how they talk about Look at how they talk about YouTube rabbit holes, right? Look at how they talk about people being radicalized. They will say,
Yeah.
such and such a person's mental health is having a deleterious effect on these other people. It's radicalizing them. It's bad for the community. They'll probably pull in the kids. It's bad for the kids, the poor kids. And yeah, they'll absolutely use this. And you've already seen, I forget what story this was, but I've been paying attention to this thing for maybe a year or so. I've noticed the word health being thrown around, especially by Democrats. They'll talk about financial health being related to health, or like anything they want is they just tack the word health on and suddenly it's a health issue.
They're saying, well, yeah, they're saying racism is now a public health crisis. And of course, what they mean by that is not racism as we define it, being prejudice or, judging or treating someone differently on the basis of race. No, they mean their new postmodern social justice definition of racist, and which is the word they use against anyone who doesn't agree with social justice.
Non-woke people.
So it's so you and I, according to the social justice new definition of racism, you and I would be considered racist and therefore a threat to public health.
Absolutely. So the only other things I want to mention about this before you move on, it doesn't just authorize them to detain you. People will like this one. Without affecting or limiting any other authority. Of course not. Yeah. The governor can, in his discretion, issue and seek enforcement of any other orders that he or she determines are necessary or appropriate to prevent dissemination or transmission of contagious diseases or other illnesses that may pose a threat. So that is wide open. That's a wide open. Anything that they, in their determination, think might propose a threat, they can do whatever they want. That's what that says, including, and then they have to enumerate a little bit for you so that you know what you're going to be forced to do. They can require testing, medical testing on you. They can require an individual who has been exposed to or infected by a contagious disease to complete an appropriate prescribed course of treatment, preventative medication or vaccination, mandatory vaccines, including directly observed therapy to treat the disease and follow infection control provisions for the disease. So we don't really need to go over any more of this, but Carrie, you really got me with this one, showing me this one was...
This is insane. It's happening in the United States. Yeah. And I'm curious, this is another one of those things where you can tell the difference between liberals, actual liberals, and the social justice, woke, neoliberal, whatever they are, but they're not liberal. The people on the left, leftists, the people who've taken over the Democratic Party, you can tell the difference. If you value liberty and freedom, if you're a true liberal, you would be speaking out about this. And I don't know, there are people like George Takei has a huge following, over 3 million followers on Twitter. He spent time in an internment camp. I haven't seen him talking about this. Not that I'm indicting him for what he's not paying attention to or not talking about, but he's someone I plan on tweeting at him later today. I just want to see, have you read this? Are you even aware of it? And what's your, I'm really genuinely curious, what's your opinion about it? As someone who's talked about internment camps before. And, where are the liberals? Where are you?
Yeah. Few liberals actually ever existed.
I'm just asking it. Yeah, but and if you are a liberal like myself who speaks out against it, you get called a right winger anyway. So that's why they don't speak out against it, because it's like, oh, that's seen as a right wing thing, and because the definitions of these terms have changed so much, and because they use the word liberal to mean illiberal, they call themselves liberals and they're not. And so any people on the left who actually still have liberal values are afraid of speaking true liberalism and of opposing something like this, because they're afraid they're going to get tossed out of the group. They'll get called a right winger too.
Yeah. Well, if your political opinions are based on what you're afraid of other people thinking of you, then you don't matter.